start to turn it around. If we all could love one another, all the world could be as one. Just take time to love one another, all the world could be as one. Black man, white man, standing together, no more fighting to be done. Yellow, red man, dancing together, all the world could be as one.
And welcome to Heal DC. This is Joni Eisenberg. It is October 30th, 2023, and we are in the midst of a horrific mass murder in Palestine, funded and supported by our government. So many of us at PFW are saying, not in our name. We are calling for an immediate ceasefire. We are going to be spending much of the show with an activist from Palestine. We're going to hear from him in a moment. But we want to remind people that this coming Saturday, and that is November 4th, there's going to be a national march and demonstration to stop this war in Palestine, to cease fire now. So keep your eyes and ears open, and we hope to see many of you out there on Saturday. We're going to hear a little bit of music that our guests provided for us, and we will be right back. And that beautiful music was provided by our guest. I'd like to introduce him, Abdelfattah Abusrour. He can help me with his name. We are very thankful he will be with us today for most of this show. We want to thank our own Graylin Hagler for introducing him to us. He is calling from Bethlehem in Palestine. Bethlehem is just 46 miles from Gaza. 46 miles, so that's about similar to Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. We are very thankful he can be here with us today to describe some of what he knows has been going on. He's with an organization called Arawad Cultural and Arts Society that has been working for many years to use what he calls beautiful resistance, to use theater, music, arts, and more to support and empower children and youth in the Palestinian community to mobilize for resistance and peace in Palestine. And of course, that is quite a tall order. We'd like to welcome Abdelfattah on with us. He is also a professor at Bethlehem University. So welcome, Abdelfattah. Good morning.
Good morning, good evening in my time. Thank you, Johnny, for hosting me.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. Well, first of all, let's start briefly with a little bit about where you grew up, and then we're going to jump right into you describing initially what is happening right now in Palestine and particularly in Gaza. So you grew up in a refugee camp.
Yes, I was born in Aida refugee camp, which is one of the 3 refugee camps in Bethlehem area, one of 19 in the West Bank, one of the 27 in Palestine with the 8 refugee camps in Gaza, and one of 58 with 10 in Jordan, 9 in Syria, and 12 in Lebanon. Refugee camps were created in 1948 to 1950 by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which is a specialized organization for Palestinian refugees, since our tragedy was not made by UN, was made by UN partition plan and resolutions and not by natural catastrophes or civil wars and so on. And so Aida Camp hosted about today 6,200 people who originated from 43 different villages among 534 which were occupied and destroyed by Zionist groups in 1948. And my parents come from two villages, Beit Natif and Zakaria, which are about 17 to 20 kilometers to the southwest of Jerusalem. And of course, depopulated, people uprooted from their homes and never been allowed to return back. And so we have been there for the last 75 years. I was born in this refugee camp, and I was one of the lucky people to get a scholarship to continue my studies in France, where I got my PhD in biological and medical engineering. But my heart was also with theater, painting, photography. So this is where I invested all my energy and challenged my negativity in a positive and constructive and creative way. And this is why when I returned back after 9 years in France, in 1994, thinking that Palestine was only waiting for me to save it, I started working with my biology degree to earn my living, teaching and doing research in Bethlehem University, but also volunteering to train theater. And in 1998, with a group of friends, I founded Ar-Ruwad Cultural and Art Society in Aida refugee camp with this philosophy that I call beautiful resistance, because I believe every act of resistance, according to every law in the world, according to UN resolutions, according to international law, every act of resistance against injustice, oppression, occupation is a beautiful act of humanity. But also resisting through culture, arts, education are great acts of resistance because the aim was how to save lives, how to inspire hope, how to give our children and young people possibilities to express themselves in the most beautiful, creative, and hopefully non-armed ways, and think living for their country rather than just die for their country or whatever cause they are defending. No parents in the world want to live the day where they bury their children, and we are really fed up of burying our children. So how to inspire hope, how to promote life, how to give these possibilities where children, young people, and women can express themselves in the most beautiful, creative way, and hopefully find a way to build peace within themselves, to be peace builders in their community, and hopefully in the world.
Yes, and I wish listeners can see the powerful video you're sharing with us here. We're going to jump in more into what your work is doing with the children, but share with us, I hate to say briefly, but tell us from your understanding of what is happening in Gaza. We just heard, I would encourage everybody to listen to today's Democracy Now! Right here on WPFW with Amy Goodman, where they said that 8,300 Palestinians have been killed since October 7th. 5,300 of those have been children. And again, folks, that is with our taxpayers' dollars that this is being done. But Abdelfattah, just briefly tell us what is happening in Gaza and in Bethlehem, where you are right now. How is it impacting you?
As you probably know, most of the population in Gaza are refugees who were uprooted also from their villages in 1948, and followed by another refuge in 1967 as well. So it has been under occupation since 1967, the Band of Gaza, and followed up by a complete siege since 17 years now. People are not able to get out or in without a permit from the Israeli military administration. They have been even canalized what they can, how many calories they could have. And this is what the Israeli studies have shown, that there was calculation of how many calories every individual needs, so that Gaza could not be considered as a hunger stuck area or catastrophic area. And this is how many uh, cars or vans or whatever these carriage bring food and materials for Gaza based on these calculations. And as you can see, this siege has been going on during these years. More than 5 wars, aggressive wars, have been carried on Gaza. And you can see the impact on people growing up, living on war after war, never feel that they can find peace one way or the other. And of course, people have different responses to injustice and oppression. Some people like me would write a play or make a painting or a drawing or write a poem or make a film or whatever. And some people will carry a gun, and some people will go and explode themselves, and some people maybe will commit suicide, and so on. So injustice is not a way to live with continuously. And this is what happened with the 7th of October when the Palestinian resistance, Hamas, and accompanied with others, have taken their destiny in their hands and went across the borders and started this operation that they call the Tufan al-Aqsa, the flood of Al-Aqsa, killing Israelis, arresting some or taking them to Gaza and so on, and created this situation with a response, a shout against this injustice that has been going all these years. Now, the Israelis' response, of course, are clear, and it has been going on even before the 7th of October happened, and killing after killing after killing, and no one in this international community in these countries, you talk about your tax money going to fund more than 3.8 or 3.9 billion dollars a year for this Israeli occupation. And instead of investing your money for health insurance and scholarships for university students and social work and supporting arts and culture in communities where Black lives matter and indigenous lives matter and so on. It's an injustice that nobody can tolerate and accept. It's an occupation that nobody can coexist with and be happy to live with. At the same time, they declare that it is a war against Hamas. If you look in the history, Israelis have been on the source of encouraging the growth of Hamas since the beginning, not because they like or don't like, but because they saw that as an opportunity to destroy Fatah, the other, or the PLO, the other kind of resistance. And so it has been flourishing. And even the latest governments, until a few months ago, we heard Mr. Netanyahu, we heard Monsieur Smotrich and others encouraging to facilitate the growth of Hamas because they wanted to make the division continuous and that there is no Palestinian unity between Gaza and the West Bank, between the Palestinian Authority and the Hamas movement and so on. And Hamas, of course, has a response and have a legitimacy in the Palestinian community. They have been elected in 2006 and denied their victory and the rule of law. And so they took the power in their hands as well. And they try to tell the world, we are not accepting to live under siege and be happy with that. So that was a lot of wars and injustices that has been accumulated to make such a response from the Palestinian resistance movements in Gaza and so on. Yet they say it's a war against Hamas, and we have been all the wars that are targeting Hamas, but of course they cannot erase Hamas or any Palestinian movement or any Palestinians. In fact, when it is declared that it is a war against Hamas, it's a war against Palestinian people. It's against children. Look at the numbers of the victims and who are the main target and objective of this. The buildings that are bombarded, the churches, the mosques, the hospitals, where people can go. And living another occupation and another Nakba or a tragedy like it happened in 1948, as they want to evacuate, to push people to leave Gaza, to go in Sinai and so on, to live another tragedy of being refugees in another country and so on in the desert, to get rid of these people. On one side, for political reasons, to take the land. On another reason, to take the resources, as they have been doing since the occupation of 1948. Water resources, gas resources, petrol resources that has been discovered around Gaza as well, and so on. So it is economic as well, and not just for the sake of defending themselves, as they say. Massacring children, women, bombarding churches and mosques and universities and hospitals is not self-defense. It is a genocide. And the same thing when they talk about Hamas, where the power of Hamas is much less than in Gaza, in the West Bank. Why are they doing all this work in the West Bank? Why they are attacking our camp or other refugee camps in Bethlehem or in Jenin or in Nablus or in Tulkarem and so on? They bombarded these places with even F-16s and Apache helicopters. They sent missiles to the buildings and so on, killing people directly involved or not involved in the active resistance against the occupation. The main targets are mostly innocent people and civilians, because almost more than 95, even 99% of Palestinians never carried a gun in their life. And they resisted like we do, through a creative and non-armed ways most of the time. Yet we are targeted as we are the ones who are occupying Israel and not the other way around. And let me say, with all the pain, sympathy, empathy to Jews and their suffering, who are the causes of their suffering? Was it the Palestinians? Was it the Arabs or Muslims? Or was it the Europeans and German, Nazi, and so on? Why should we pay for the crimes of the Nazis or Europe or whoever? Why these countries who killed Jews and burned them in gas chambers and so on are the ones who come to give us moral lessons about that this occupier have the right to defend itself and not the occupied? We are living on continuous incursions by the Israeli occupation soldiers. When we used to be asked what we want to be when we grow up, I was among all these people who wanted to be doctors, engineers. This most of the families, Palestinian families, want their children to be. Now we are seeing some of the children say that. But I have children who are even in Aida refugee camp, let alone Gaza, who are continuously bombarded and in wars, saying, well, we don't grow up in Palestine. We are killed. We are murdered before we grow up. So even the child who tell you, I want to die because nobody cares, or I want to die because when the Israeli soldiers come in the middle of the night or at 5 a.m, there is nobody to protect. We have, again, a Palestinian Authority in the West Bank who has no real authority on anything. Did you hear about any act of resistance by the Israeli military by the Palestinian police or military, between brackets, against the Israeli incursions in the West Bank and so on? It's non-existing, because Israel even decredited the Palestinian Authority with every incursion that this is an authority that has no real authority on anything, and the Israelis decide who can do what and who cannot, who can import and who cannot, who can export and who cannot.
Okay, let's reintroduce you. We're speaking with Abdelfattah Abusrour, calling from Bethlehem in Palestine. This is 46 miles from Palestine. We're going to hear a little bit more about the work that he's doing with children and using theater, music, and art. And maybe we'll have time to open up the phones. But I think we have one caller, Kimon Freeman. Kimon, are you there with us?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. I'm glad to hear you. Help our listeners understand what many already know, the true reason that the United States is supporting this genocide of people in Palestine?
Well, basically, war makes money, and this is a business. And until we make it our business to disrupt business, it will be business as usual. The U.S. defense industry has a market size of $750 billion. The defense market is projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 2.37% until 2030, and half of that goes to the 12 largest corporations of so-called defense contractors, half of which are located right here in the DMV. Now, this has produced a military-industrial media complex in which the corporate media does not provide a check on government use of military power, but it influences our perception of war so as to manufacture support for the military apparatus that drains our nation's resources, perpetuates endless wars and violence, and profits off of death and destruction. Now, the top 5 recipients of U.S. foreign aid in the 21st century is Afghanistan, Iraq, Israel, Egypt, which is Israel adjacent, and Ukraine. Now, I was very happy to see all these pro-Palestinian protests worldwide calling for a ceasefire to this genocide. But as Alexander Haig, Secretary of State under Ronald Reagan and White House Chief of Staff under Nixon, famously said, let them march all they want as long as they continue to pay their taxes. Now, Martin Luther King warned us about the 3 evils: racism, militarism, and capitalism, and we're seeing that play out in real time. He also said the greatest purveyors of violence in the world today is my own government. It was true then, and it's still true today, because war is good for business.
Absolutely, and especially those weapons manufacturers and many other businesses as well. So what our guest was just talking about, Abdelfattah, this war certainly does not benefit the Jews, and we've seen thousands of Jewish people going out, including in New York City last Friday, where there were perhaps countless 3,000-4,000 people out there at Grand Central Station, 300 being arrested. Of course, the mainstream media the lamestream media doesn't report it. But the true reason for war, for this particular war, is I think this country wants to have control over that region. It has to do with oil, I'm sure. And the weapons manufacturers and many others are benefiting from this war. So, Kimon Friedman, we're glad you called in. Kimon with We Act Radio, activist on the street. You could see him in all these demonstrations. And perhaps someday you can help us bring our guest, Abdelfattah, back to Washington, D.C., and you can see him perform with the beautiful theater and music that he does. Do you have any words or something you'd like to say to our guest calling in from Palestine?
We are in solidarity that this is unsustainable and that Palestine will be free. And let me add that Joe Biden famously said years ago, when he still had hair, that if there wasn't an Israel, they would have to invent an Israel. This is business, and we have to go about interrupting that business.
Thank you very much, Kimon. And Abdelfattah, welcome back. Perhaps we're going to try to open up the phones in a few minutes, but share with the listeners a little bit more about the work that you have been doing. You call it Beautiful Resistance, using theater, music, art to support and empower children and youth and the Palestinian community to mobilize for resistance and peace. Maybe give us some examples of what you've done and how it's impacted the children and the young people.
Yes, thank you for your guest, Kimon. I didn't hear most of what was said. It's very low voice on my side. But what we do since 1998, I started with theater, because I believe theater is one of the most amazing, powerful, truthful ways, creative ways to express oneself. And for children and young people, it was a way to tell their stories, their version of their stories and history. And to be truthful, because if you are not truthful to yourself, how can you be truthful with anybody? And to express yourselves in the most beautiful, honest way, because again, it's hopefully a way to build peace within oneself, to be peace builder in their community and beyond. But You know that not everybody wants to do theater, so that's why we added dance, singing, music, photography, video to be also behind the camera, not just in front of it. Show Palestine how we see it, how we dream it, how we hope it will be, and not just being portrayed by the media as people who are born with genes of hatred and violence. Nobody is born with genes of hatred and violence, and nobody is born to be just enslaved and occupied and oppressed and be happy about it. So it was these venues that we tried to create possibilities for our children. And then if you want to make a change in the community, you have to involve parents, especially mothers, because I believe it's women who change the world much more than the men. So it was important to help build peace within also the mothers to be peace builders in their houses, in their families, and in the community. And then we started to expand, going beyond Aida refugee camp to go all over the West Bank, connecting with other Palestinian communities, training trainers with mobile programs, with theater, dance, music, and photography and video and mobile cinema to project films in different areas, and Play Bus, where we started creating games, educational games to make education fun and not just memorization and dictation. And it was also a way to resist this Bantustanization and segregation of Palestinian communities from each other. Then we had invitations to tour internationally, and there is Friends of Arwad in the United States as a 501c3 charity who try to support and fundraise and receive donations, and inviting us to tour internationally with our shows. So since the year 2000, we toured in Sweden, Denmark, France, Belgium, Austria, United States, United Kingdom. And these tours are amazing possibilities to allow our young people to see normal life in free countries, to meet, to see that we share a lot of things as human beings. And these similarities should bring us closer to each other. And see also that we have differences. And the differences are the most beautiful gifts that God gave us because they are ways to enrich us and not marginalize us and make us afraid from each other. And realize that when we talk about justice, freedom, peace, equality, love, these are values that we share as human beings, whether we are Muslim or Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or Hindu or atheist or whatever we are, whether we are white or black or whatever. There is no way that these values can divide us. These are the values that we share as human beings, as equals, to shape a better future for our children and the generations to come. And this is where arts are important, because when you see a film or a theater play or listen to music or look at a painting or a photo, I don't think anybody will say, I don't like it because this is French or American or black or white. You like, you don't like, based on how much it touches you as a human beings. So these are the bridges that we can build as equals, again, to create these possibilities for our children and the generations to come, to feel that they are equal and they defend what is just and what is right. And that's why you see these Jewish voices for peace. And when you talk about Black Lives Matter or Indigenous Lives Matters or whatever, and now Palestinian Lives Matter, and so on, because people are normally innate with justice and the values that we share as human beings. They are not born with genes of hatred or violence. These are things that are taught to people and indoctrinate them by this media brainwashing and these vicious occupations that control the minds and the hearts of people and erase the humanity in them, like we are seeing today with this Israeli illegal occupation in Palestine and this genocide that is going on. We try to give possibilities not to dictate a code of behavior. We work with everybody, but not under the umbrella of anybody. We are not affiliated to any political party, but we refuse also the labeling of any Palestinian party as terrorist because according to UN resolutions, according to international law, every people who are under oppression, under occupation, have a legitimate right to resist the occupation by all means, according to them. So resisting occupation is legitimate by all means. Now, if people talk about terrorism, if killing innocent people is terrorism, we can agree with that. But this applies for everybody, individuals, agencies, movements, or states. And this is a state terrorism that has been going on since 75 years. Ar-Ruwad try to develop its programs to also respond to emergencies and the needs of the community, to serve them according to their needs and not according to the funding or the projects. We are not project-oriented. We are mission-oriented, program-oriented. So we do our programs, and when we try to respond to humanitarian needs, like providing food or medicine or scholarships for university students or whatever, of course, according to the donation we receive, it tries to respond with respect and dignity. During the COVID, we were cooking meals, packaging them, and sending them to the homes of people, not asking people to come and wait in line and show the photos and so on, because we owe our people to show them in their strength and dignity, not in their weakness and the humiliation. We cook these meals, and since 2020, when COVID started, it started in Bethlehem, in fact, on the 6th of March, 2020. We cooked around 11,500 meals. In 2021, it goes up to 17,000, and then more than 20,000 2022, and this year about 18,700 meals. We send coupons for clothes for children and orphans. They go to the shops, choose whatever they want, and it's their choice, not just to bring things and throw them, and people can pick whatever they want and so on. So it deals with respect and dignity. And that's why we try also to develop our artistic program. So the music program hopefully will become a music school, and the photo and video program would become a cinema or film teaching school and a photography school and so on. And the floor is open for those who want to partner with us. And this also a way to remind me to thank just all those hundreds of thousands who demonstrated in the streets in solidarity with Palestine and Palestinian people, and those artists in the UK and the US and in many places in the world who signed the ceasefire petition, stop this genocide and so on. We are really grateful and thankful that they are taking the streets and tell the politicians that they are on the wrong side of the history.
And again, you are listening to WPFW 89.3 FM, Jazz and Justice Radio. This is me, Joni, with Tuhil DC. Chuck Hicks is with us in spirit today. And
I'm here, Joni.
Good morning, Chuck. I'm glad you could be listening. And I'm sure you're getting a lot out of this powerful discussion. Yeah. We are listening to Abdelfattah calling in from Palestine, from Bethlehem, where he teaches at Bethlehem University. Bethlehem is just about 46 miles from Gaza. So that's like going from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. It's very close by. And we have about 10 more minutes with him before we're going to wrap up our show with talking about a dance program east of the river. But we do have a few more minutes. I don't think we have time to open up the phones. But I want to ask Abdelfattah to continue and talk about two more things. Again, what do you suggest and urge and recommend that those of us right here in Washington, D.C. do to stop this genocide, number one, and then make sure that you share how people can support your organization. So let's start with what people can do. Chuck and I are urging people to come out on Saturday, this Saturday, November 4th. It's going to be a national demonstration, people coming in from all over the country, and we would urge many of you listeners to come on out there. We know that demonstrations are not the answer to everything, but they are important. And Abdelfattah, what would you suggest is other things that those of us here in this country can do to stop the genocide?
Yeah. Again, I'm really grateful for all those who supported from different backgrounds, demonstrating in the streets, filling up the streets and raising their voice against the injustice that is happening in Palestine by the Israeli occupation. and all these artists that sign and raises their voice to cease the fire and stop this genocide. And we need more voices to raise up. We need more voices to support organizations like Arwad and others who try to give the space for multiplicity and diversity and celebrate this spirit of inclusion and not exclusion that exists in Palestine in the past, in the present, and in the future, because we are people who are proud of this multiplicity and diversity, as hopefully you are. Injustice is everywhere. When we came and toured in the United States, we did workshops with Afro-American communities, especially one in Louisville, Kentucky. And after a week of workshops, these children, our children said, they are poorer than us. So imagine Palestinian children living under occupation in a refugee camp in Palestine come to the biggest, richest country in the world and see clearly that there is an injustice against Afro-American people and among others. Injustice cannot be tolerated, and it is visible, and it's a way to identify with each other. Our suffering is connected, and we cannot say our suffering is the only one which counts and no other suffering counts. We identify with every suffering in the world, with the indigenous Americans, indigenous Australians, Afro-Americans, South Africans, wherever there is injustice, oppression, it's not acceptable. We identify with Muslims in Myanmar and in China and in India who are under another kind of oppression as well. It's not acceptable. So that's why we value these voices, these people like Jewish Voice for Peace and the Afro-American community and the Arab Muslim community and so on in different parts of the world who demonstrated hundreds of thousands against even the will of their governments, against the interdictions like in France or Germany or some other countries who were suppressing any voice for Palestine and for justice. We are looking forward to different partnerships that we can create and build together among artists as well, artistic organization. For those who want to support our humanitarian relief work with respect and dignity, like we have about 400 people who used to work on the Israeli side and who were thrown in Bethlehem area. And we try to relieve also with food and clothes and health products and medicine and so on, and try to provide for the families in need when there is such a crisis and closures and wars and so on. So people want to support financially, that is great. We have the Friends of Arwad charity, 501c3 charity in the United States of America. They can donate that. They can also, I send you some links. I don't know if there is a way to diffuse them through the radio and so on. But there are different possibilities.
Maybe just let's just choose one, clearly describing one way to listeners they can support you. Could you say out the name again slowly, and how people can contact that your organization to make a donation?
So there is an email, my email that could be diffused, but also you look at arwadusa.org.
And how to
ALROWWADUSA.org. There is a donate button, and so people can donate through that and can connect also through them to connect with us and see the possibilities of co-productions or co-working together, or people who want to come and visit or volunteer with Arwad and so on. And if people are interested in supporting the cinema school or the music school or other projects, that is fine. If they want to support the humanitarian relief work, that is great as well. If they want to connect with us, exchange, produce films or theater plays or whatever, or bring me or others to do workshops or produce our shows as well and perform in the United States, that is also an amazing possibility to connect us with each other and so on. So these are open windows with respect and dignity and creating possibilities for the future generation to inspire hope and promote life, and not just to say we can't do anything, so we'll just close our doors and weep. A lot of people have hopelessness. I say we don't have this luxury of despair, so we have to do what we have to do. Hopefully others will join, but even if they will not join, we will continue.
Absolutely. And again, you've been listening to our guest this morning, Abdelfattah, calling in from Bethlehem, very close by to Gaza, doing an amazing work with what he calls beautiful resistance, using theater, art, music, and more to support and empower children and youth and educate people and encourage people to fight for peace. He reaches thousands of people in Palestine alone, travels all around the country. We are very thankful for our own Graylin Hagler for introducing him to us. He was here in the summer. We hope we can bring him back here sometime in the not too distant future. Again, if you would like to support his organization, you can contact his organization. That's ALRWADUSA.org. Is that correct?
ALROU. ALROUWADUSA.org.
Okay, one more time. Say it. Give the letters. People get a chance to get a pen.
ALROWADUSA.org.
Okay. Thank you very much, Abdelfattah, calling us from Bethlehem. We hope to speak with you again, and our prayers and our feet and our voices are there with you. We're going to be out in the streets. Some of us have been out in the streets a lot in the last 2 weeks, and we will be there again this Saturday. You will be there with us in spirit. Saturday, November 4th. We are meeting at 2 p.m. at Freedom Plaza. Many organizations are calling for this march. So we hope to see you there. And again, I also want to encourage people to listen to Democracy Now!, today's program. And you can also tune in today at 7 p.m. with a program called Building Bridges, which is also going to be focusing on ceasefire now, no genocide in our name. And we're going out, before we move on to our own Ward 8, east of the river with Wanda Lockridge, we're going out with a little clip of music, thanks to our guest for sharing. Do you want to share the name or anything about this little clip that you sent us?
I send you 2 links, one for Trio Gibran, who are 3 Palestinian musicians, brothers, and who create an amazing music with ouds. And the other one is with Fayrouz, a Lebanese singer who sang for Palestine and for Jerusalem.
Okay.
And she is magical, really.
Thank you so much. We'll be playing some of that music into the future. And we're with you. We're standing behind you. Okay, let's hear a little music.
Thank you kindly.
You're welcome, more than welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll be in touch. Now we are shifting gear.
Thank you.
Yes. Peace, shalom, shalom. And we are moving now into our peace and blessings. We're moving into our own Washington, D.C., east of the river, with a very positive, exciting program happening this Saturday. I am thrilled to introduce someone who is often on our airwaves, and that is Wanda Lockridge, who one hat, she's wearing another hat today, but she is the chief of staff for Trayon White in Ward 8. And she is also one of the founders of the William Lockridge Foundation, who every year has a magnificent program called Dancing with the Scholars. And that is happening this Saturday, November 4th in the evening. And Wanda is coming on to share with us what is taking place. And I'm going to ask Wanda to introduce her two other guests who are joining us today. Good morning, Wanda.
Good morning, Joni. How are you this morning?
It's better seeing you.
It's always a pleasure joining you early in the morning.
Yes. And we're so glad we could share with our listeners this positive activity happening Saturday evening. So first tell us about the William Lockridge Foundation.
Absolutely. And then I'll be happy to introduce the members who will be participating next Saturday as well. So the William O. Lockridge Community Foundation is 12 years old. We started the foundation in 2011 after the passing of my late husband, William Lockridge. Basically, just maybe to close the gap in some of the educational gaps in Ward 7 and 8. And so we started out simply by just doing a scholarship at Ballou Senior High School where William taught, as well as a coach there. And we did 4 $1,000 scholarships. And from there, we have expanded our programming into the International Ambassador Program, where we take kids to Africa with no cost to them. We have a scholarship fund. We've given almost $300,000 in scholarships. And we created last year the U.S. Foreign Service Initiative to just introduce our young students to careers in the international arena. So with me today, we have our board member, Dr. Jock Patterson, who is also a member of the William O. Lockridge Community Foundation, also a dancer who performed in Dancing with the Scholars one year, as well as our chair, president of the State Board of Education. We have Ebony Rose Thompson here, who also danced, I think, a couple of years ago and actually won first place. So they're going to be joining us this year as judges.
Wow. And I think Miss Ebony is also serves on the, represents Ward 7 on the State Board of Education. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So good morning, friends and ladies and sisters. I'm glad you can all join us. Good morning. Who would like to tell us about Dancing with the Scholars this year?
I'll let Madam President go first real quick. If you like.
So I understand this year is a little bit different, and we're not dancing, which I think is okay. But we have I believe there's a battle of the schools. And so the young people will actually be dancing with students from their schools, but it'll still be schools in 7 and 8. So I guess as experienced dancers, we will have the privilege of being judges this year.
Very good. And you represent Ward 7 on the State Board of Education. So maybe we can bring a little bit more dancing back into the schools. That'll be a positive thing. And let's hear from Jock Patterson. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just always a delight to participate with Dancing with the Scholars. As Wanda said, I've been involved with it for years. I want to say since the inception, but just so many years, and what it does for particularly children east of the river is what I want to focus on and everything, because a lot of times we don't see a lot of schools or a lot of scholarships coming our way. So that the William O. Lockridge Foundation is really focused on giving our children the opportunity to be creative. And as she said, I have won before. I'm undefeated. The next year, I wasn't able to participate. So I guess, that allowed our president, who's on screen, also to participate and win her series. But with that being said, it's a great opportunity for the community to come out and watch our talented scholars dance, to participate in something that truly benefits our children and our community. And I'm so appreciative of the foundation, Wanda, for always leading us, staying true to this, having a focus on our kids east of the river. It's just an outstanding event.
Absolutely. And let's hear where this event is taking place.
We will be at the Ark again this year. This is our 12th year. We only missed 1 year during the pandemic when we did virtual, but we back there. They're at 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast Washington, D.C. We'll be there at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9. And I tell you, if you have not been, you missed a treat, because our young people, they show up. And they show out this year. The theme is, as you heard, battle with these schools, and it's all about the school spirit. So folk can come up with their gear on, with their school swag. And so it's going to be a lot of fun with the students dancing with their teachers this year.
Absolutely. And I will encourage people, because I try to get there every year, and hopefully I can be there this Saturday night. It is extremely joyful, extremely encouraging to see all those young people up there dancing. And we're going to repeat this again, but Wanda, for people, this year it is free. I don't remember.
Never been free. We've been really fortunate this year to have an underwriter to the tickets. And so we really wanted to make sure that families that were maybe not able to afford it, to bring their families out, those seniors who want to come out and hang out and do some intergenerational activities. This is the opportunity. Don't miss this opportunity. It is free this year. You can go online. You can go to Eventbrite. You can go to our website at www.williamlockridgecommunityfoundation.org and just reserve your tickets or your seats, because tickets are not required, but you can certainly has to register. Even though it's free, we need you to register again at our website at www.williamlockridgecommunityfoundation.org.
Absolutely. And we really encourage as many of you to come on out and bring some joy in your hearts and your soul and your spirit. A wonderful, wonderful event. And Wanda or any of the guests can share how many schools or what schools are going to be joining you in this Dancing with the Scholars? Is it mostly, does it include elementary schools, or what's the range?
These are high schoolers, and this year Anacostia, Ballou, and Kip will be participating.
Oh, wow.
Schools that get trophies this year. The dancers will, get a little something. We won't say it online. Just come on out and check us out. But the students can win up to $500. And so we are just ready. I'm excited. I saw a little bit of footage last night. I'm not going to even share it with the judges. So I don't want them to get a little hint on what they may see and judge on. But I'm pretty excited about what I saw last night.
Very, very exciting. And we need some positivity in our spirits and in our hearts. It's really, really a wonderful event. And we just have about a minute left. But Wanda, please, for those people who did not know William Lockridge, I was blessed to meet him right there at WPFW. He was very much a part of our community radio station. But just I know it's hard to summarize, but in a sentence or two, tell us what your husband did for young people in this, particularly east of the river.
If you don't mind, I'm going to put Dr. Patterson on the spot, because he had a really great relationship. I think it may be good to hear from someone other than the wife.
Okay, Mr. Patterson, you got it.
And I'll be brief. I'll just say this. He was a personal mentee to me. The very first time that I ever wanted to get involved in the community, I was walking on Savannah Place, and he walked up to me and asked me what I was doing. I was running for ANC at that particular time. I said, "Young man, let me tell you how to do this and how you serve your community." And from that time on, he served as a mentor to me. And it just shows how much he cared about the community. He didn't care who you were. As long as you wanted to help the community, he was going to invest into you. He was going to pour into you. And he showed that throughout his whole career. In whatever position that he served in. He was amazing. He loved our children. He was one of the most fierce fighters that we could ever have as far as a school board representative. And I try every day to honor him in my service as the State Board of Education.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. So listeners, we're just about out of time. We want to thank the William Lockridge Community Foundation. Come on out this Saturday evening, 7 p.m. You could register for these free tickets, WilliamLockridgeCommunityFoundation.org. And perhaps some of you, like me, can come on out after you go to the march during the day. March for Ceasefire Now. No more genocide in our name. Meeting at Freedom Plaza, 2 p.m. Saturday, and then you have plenty of time to go over to the ARC on Mississippi Avenue, William Lockridge Community Foundation.org. I want to thank everybody on the phone now, including Wanda Lockridge. I want to thank our engineer, Deontay, this morning. I want to thank Mari, Graylin Hagler, and everybody who helped make this program possible, including you listeners who supported us during our recent pledge drive. We are on the air only because of you. We are not part of the media, the war media that's promoting this horrific killing over there in Palestine. We are here for the people and for you. So stay tuned and keep hope alive. And again, we hope to see you Saturday during the day down there at the mall, and then in the evening at the ARC. Peace and blessings to all.
Thank you, Joni, for having us.